Tell me, Kevin, how much do you make a year? My annual income is $10,000. Only $10,000. It's unbelievable to earn only $10,000 these days. Guess it can be helped since you're a middle school dropout. I couldn't stand a contemptuous attitude of this jerk at the reunion. However, just then, a man appeared, leading to a surprising conclusion. My name is Kevin, and I don't have a mother. When I was in the 3rd grade, she divorced my father and left home. I haven't seen her since. After my mother left, it has always been just my father and me. My father used to run a small printing shop. It seemed to be doing well when my mother first joined our family, but with the advent of digitalization, the demand for printing decreased drastically, and the business quickly declined. My mother suggested selling the print shop and starting over, but my father refused to agree. That led to their divorce. I still remember the last words my mother said to me before she left. "Hey Kevin, why don't you come and live with me?" "No, I want to stay with Dad." It wasn't that my mother abandoned me. I chose to abandon her. Because I loved my father so much. He was a sincere and earnest man. I think he wasn't cut out for running a printing business due to his clumsy way of life. But I loved how he worked silently, without a single complaint. He would meticulously complete even the smallest orders, with little profit. There were people who defaulted on their printing payments, but even then, he would say, they must be really strapped for cash. It's fine as long as they pay when they can afford it, without getting angry. I think my mother grew tired of such a good-natured father. One day, I asked my dad a question. "Dad, isn't it bad when people don't pay for their printing? Why don't you report them to the police?" "Listen, Kevin, there's no one who is inherently bad. Everyone has their circumstances, and they feel sorry in their hearts. Really, if you start doubting people, it's the end. Isn't life all about valuing the connections with others? Don't forget that." The print shop's business became increasingly difficult, to the point where we couldn't afford employees, and in the end, it was just my father trying to keep it afloat. Sometimes when we got a big order, I, still a grade schooler, would help out all night. Going to school after an all-nighter, my classmates would laugh at me. I hadn't realized there was ink on my face. When I tried to wipe it off in a hurry, it smeared all over, and they laughed even harder. However, there was one girl who wiped the ink off with her wet handkerchief. "Thanks, but now your handkerchief is dirty." "It's fine. It's impressive that you were helping out with work all night. I'll wash this handkerchief and return it to you." The next day, I took the washed handkerchief to school, but that girl had moved away. I still cherish that handkerchief. When things get tough, I look at it and muster my strength. In middle school, the harassment from my classmates intensified. Since my father's print shop was on the brink of bankruptcy, I couldn't afford proper clothes or school supplies. My school uniform and textbooks were all hand-me-downs from my cousin, and they were in tatters. Harry was the one who led the harassment against me. Ever since elementary school, he has been a coward who looked down on me and mocked me. Kevin's French dictionary is all tattered. I need to blow my nose. I'll take a page. He suddenly tore a page from my dictionary and blew his nose with it. Then, finding it amusing, the other classmates started tearing pages too, and in the end my dictionary was thrown in the trash can. It was an important dictionary to me since I loved French, so I got angry and lashed out at Harry. Harry, being cowardly and weak in fights, quickly sought help from his friends. They ganged up on me and pinned me to the floor. While grinning, Harry placed his foot on my stomach and spat in my face, saying, "Don't you ever defy me again, you poor loser." Seeing me return home in tears, my father said nothing. He just told me, "Kevin, in any kind of world, there's always at least one ally. Don't forget that. There's no one on my side. No way there is. There's one, yourself. No matter how tough it gets, you're always your own ally." Even if the whole world is against me, I have one ally myself. As long as I don't forget that, I can keep going. That night, I picked up a French dictionary discarded in a corner of the printing shop. It was a dictionary discarded due to a printing error. From the next day, I started studying French with that dictionary. My French grades improved quickly, and during classes, the teacher praised my pronunciation. Then, Harry mocked me. It's pointless for a poor guy who's going to drop out of middle school to speak French, planning to go work in France or something, as if any company would hire someone like you. You'll just end up working at your dad's failing print shop. The harassment from my classmates continued until I graduated from middle school. And after graduation, I ended up working at my father's factory, just as they said. It wasn't that no one would hire me. I wanted to work with my father. Kevin, don't work at my factory, at least finish high school. My dad advised me, encouraging me to continue my education, but I wanted to revive the print shop. I needed to start working on site as soon as possible for that. So I worked hard at the nearly failing print shop. I managed the printing jobs differently from how my father had done. Then, one day, years later, I received a notice about an elementary school reunion. I had no intention of attending, but there was one person I wanted to meet. She was the girl who wiped my face with her handkerchief that day in elementary school when I came to school with ink on my face after helping my dad all night. She had transferred away, but I washed her handkerchief carefully and have cherished it ever since. I want to return the handkerchief to her and thank her for that time. For that reason alone, I attended the reunion. But the girl I was looking for wasn't there. Not wanting to talk to the classmates who had made fun of me, I was about to leave when Harry, the bully, blocked my path. Hey, if it isn't Kevin, showing your face at the reunion, as dumb as ever. Noticing me, my classmates gathered around and started to harass me like before. Good for you, getting a job right after middle school. You even got to wear a proper suit. This looks like a second-hand suit, doesn't it? Smells a bit too. As I tried to leave, ignoring them, Harry grabbed my shoulder to stop me. Don't get so worked up. Hey, I work in the PR department of a major electronics manufacturer. Should I place an order with your print shop? I stayed silent, knowing it was just to tease me. Then he said, if you want work, just ask. We're classmates, after all. Go on and beg. I'll give you a job. The classmates, finding it amusing, clapped their hands and chanted loudly, beg, beg, beg. The reunion seemed like nothing more than a gathering to harass me. But the Kevin of elementary school and the Kevin of today are different. I stood tall and replied to Harry. Thanks, but I don't do printing work anymore. Sorry. Did your print shop already go under? At Harry's words, the classmates burst into laughter. And that's when it happened. Hey everyone, we're meeting after 10 years, so let's stop this mean harassment. I turned around and was surprised. There she was, the girl who had been kind to me back then. Her name was Sophia. She was popular in our elementary school, but now as an adult, she had become even more attractive. Harry, reprimanded by Sophia, quickly changed his attitude, trying to impress her. It's not harassment. We're all just sharing our salaries since we all work at good companies. He explained, sounding triumphant. I work for a major electronics manufacturer, so my annual income is $100,000. What's yours, Kevin? Not wanting to answer his silly question, I stayed silent until he insisted. Come on, Kevin. How much do you make a year? Reluctantly, I answered. My income is $10,000. Harry cut me off, dramatically feigning shock. Only $10,000. It's unbelievable to earn only $10,000 these days. Well, I guess it's expected for a middle school dropout. I can lend you some money if you need it. Seeing my trolled face, Sophia intervened. Salary doesn't matter. We're here for a reunion, so let's enjoy ourselves. Just then, a man in a uniform and cap entered the room and called my name. "Kevin, is the President Kevin here?" All my classmates turned to look at the man. He was my personal chauffeur. When he found me, he said, "President Harrison, please return to the headquarters immediately. A delegation from New York has arrived." "Understood. Let's go." Harry, dumbfounded, confronted my chauffeur. "Kevin is a president, a delegation from New York. Stop joking. A middle school dropout making only $10,000 a year. Excuse me, but President Harrison's annual income is not $10,000, but $10 million. The chauffeur corrected. "Wait, $10 million. It easily surpasses $10 million a year." As I got into the luxury car waiting outside, Harry's screams could be heard from the building's windows. "I can't believe it. That's a luxury Mercedes." I then headed back to the headquarters. I later heard that Harry collapsed on the spot after seeing the luxury Mercedes. He was shocked to find out through his cell phone that my printing company had expanded overseas with specialized printing technology. At the after-party, he drank excessively and made a scene, causing his classmates to lose patience with him. I thought it was his just desserts, but I didn't scorn him. I felt pity for such a pitiable person. Later, I heard that Harry was fired from the major electronics manufacturer. The reasons were unclear, but probably due to some underhanded tactics he employed. My proficiency in French allowed me to gather foreign ID information diligently, which I used to develop a unique printing technology. It quickly became popular, attracting numerous orders from abroad. Within half a year, I turned around the almost bankrupt print shop, and now we even have a separate headquarters building apart from the factory. I'm the president, but the chairman is my father. He's the real hero for keeping the print shop going. A few days later, I met Sophia again and was able to return the cherished handkerchief. "Thank you for keeping it so carefully all this time. This handkerchief supported me. My dad said we always have one ally in this world ourselves, but I had another ally, this handkerchief." Sophia smiled happily and made a proposal. "Actually, I also came from a poor background and dropped out of high school, but I worked hard and started my own company. Would you like to collaborate on developing a new product?" Sophia had started a home renovation company. She wondered if my company's printing technology could be used on a new wallpaper material she had developed. "Sure, I'll help. Let's explore new possibilities together." "Thank you, let's work hard together." Sophia and I, having hit it off well, exchanged ideas daily, and after much trial and error, finally completed a new kind of wallpaper. Thus, our joint venture progressed smoothly, and Sophia and I began dating in our personal lives as well. Our catchphrase was always the same. Being poor is really the secret to success, isn't it? It's because we're poor that we can strive so hard. I cherish the connection I have with Sophia and plan to continue doing so. Probably, we'll be married in a year. Life is all about valuing connections with others, isn't it? Remembering my father's words, I vowed to keep striving forward. I've always been a quiet person by nature, raised by parents who taught me to be kind to others. As a result, I rarely got angry with people and sometimes even put myself at a disadvantage. Nevertheless, I lived by the principle of doing things for the sake of others. My friends would sometimes scold me, saying you should express your emotions more, but I loved seeing people smile and always prioritized others over myself. After graduating from college, I joined a reasonably large advertising agency. Although I was introverted, I thought a sales position might make me more outgoing. I was genuinely interested in sales, so I asked to be assigned to the sales department. For the first 2 to 3 years, I was stationed at a branch office, a little distance from the headquarters. My boss at the time, the branch manager named James, was very caring. He didn't get angry at subordinates' mistakes. Instead, he emphasized learning from them. Whenever I made a mistake, He would help me think it through and encourage me, making my job feel fulfilling. James was greatly respected not just by the staff but also by the CEO and clients. Under his leadership, I believe the company's sales were quite good. However, in my second year, James was transferred to the headquarters and George took over as my new boss. George was from the headquarters, and frankly, I had never heard anything positive about him. He was known for being lazy, kind only to young women, and arrogant towards married employees, those with children, and younger male staff. Many had left because of him. He was always obsequious to the CEO and those who benefited him. Rumors were that, despite his incompetence, he was good at ingratiating himself. When it was announced that such an infamous person like George would come to our branch, some female staff members even said I'd quit if he came. Faced with his imminent arrival, I was filled with anxiety about what lay ahead. As usual, I arrived at work 15 minutes before the start of my shift. Since joining the company, I had made it a routine to clean the office in the morning. That day, as I opened the door to start cleaning, I was surprised to find someone already there. Nevertheless, I greeted them with a good morning. In response, a loud voice said, "Good morning. Who are you?" I'm Ethan. I stammered. "I'm George from the headquarters. Nice to meet you. Are you always the first one here?" "Yes. Since I joined, I've always come in early to clean before everyone else." I see," George said and then started walking around the room. I continued cleaning without much concern. Soon, other employees began arriving, each greeting George, until it was time for our first meeting of the day. George opened the meeting by saying, "I'm George from the headquarters. Let's make sure sales don't drop under my watch. I'll be strict with employees whose sales are poor." Hearing this, I felt a jolt of anxiety. Despite being in my second year, my performance was so poor that even new employees were outperforming me. I wonder if I'm not suited for sales, I thought, feeling troubled by George's words. Then George ordered, "Those whose names I call, come to the front." As expected, my name was among them. For the next 30 minutes, he lectured each of us standing at the front. When it was my turn, George pointed at the sales performance board and said, "I see you clean every morning. It would be great if that made you good at your job. Before cleaning, why don't you think about how to improve your sales?" He said in a mocking tone. All I could muster was a quiet yes in response. As I thought about whether I could handle such a situation, I tried to shift my focus and went to write down my day's fieldwork schedule. George then commented loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, your sales aren't great, but you're diligent about your fieldwork. Impressive." Feeling embarrassed, I answered in a small voice, "I'm heading out," and left the room. Passing by the break room, I overheard colleagues, Sophia and Lily, talking while preparing tea. I heard George always find someone to bully. I bet he's already picked someone from the group he called out earlier. Yeah, like Ethan maybe. He's quite shy. Hearing this, I was rooted to the spot, unable to move. What if it's really me? I'm the only one in my second year among those he called out today. These thoughts raced through my mind, leaving me frozen in place. Then Sophia, coming out of the break room, noticed me. "Oh, Ethan, were you here? Sorry, did you overhear us?" she asked, looking flustered. "No, it's okay. It's true my performance isn't great, but we see how hard you're working, Ethan. Customers even say, Ethan is a thoughtful and good salesman. So, keep it up. We're all supporting you," Lily said, offering me a piece of candy. Seeing them leave, I thought to myself, even if I become George's new target, it shouldn't matter if I improve my performance. Everyone has their highs and lows. I won't let this get me down. I'll make great proposals for my clients. With renewed determination, I headed out for my sales appointments. After that, I worked tirelessly to improve my performance. My sales gradually improved, but they were still far behind my peers. George would scold me daily and even blame me for his own mistakes, saying, It's because of Ethan's poor performance that my job is affected. Additionally, when a female employee asked to leave early because her child was sick, George made her cry by saying, "This is why I have issues with employees who have children. Well, the company will run without you. All right, go home and take care of your child." On the other hand, when a young female new employee seemed unwell, he said, "I'd be sad to send you home because you bring so much brightness. But you're an important staff member. Go home and come back when you're feeling better." She left, looking guilty. From then on, even when coming to work, she seemed to worry about other staff's sigh and gradually lost her energy. Day by day, the atmosphere in the office worsened, and eventually, several employees resigned. Yet George insisted it wasn't his fault, saying, "They just didn't have the guts." He bad-mouthed them in front of everyone and refused to change his ways. One day, President John, who was CEO, came to the branch with a man in his 50s named Steve. "This is Steve, who will be joining us from today. George, I'm entrusting you with his training. You know, he's a valuable asset for us," he said. Steve looked a bit chubby, with thinning hair and a slightly stooped posture. He seemed somewhat down on his luck. In front of President John, George was in high spirits, saying, "Leave it to me, President John. I'll turn him into a top-notch salesman in no time." "Good, George. Sales at this branch have been a bit down lately, so I'm counting on you," President John said, leaving George looking tense. After President John left, George's attitude changed drastically. "Hey, Ethan, come here," he yelled, and I rushed to him. "Ethan, you're going to be his trainer." "But just now, President John said you would be the trainer," I responded in surprise. "What, you trying to give me orders? I'm swamped with other work. Besides, how can this old guy be of any use?" George said, kicking a chair over. His yelling and actions frightened some of the female staff, and as I stood there hesitantly, Steve picked up the chair and spoke gently. "Hi, I'm Steve. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm excited to work with you all." Saying that, he greeted everyone cheerfully. "This is something for you. I hope you guys like it," he said, handing out cream puffs from a popular store to everyone, lightening the mood. Steve then sat next to me and said sincerely, "Thank you, Ethan, for taking on the role of training me." "No problem, Steve. Sorry that you had to see the office like this on your first day. Well, frankly, I'm not doing well in sales lately, so that makes George kind of frustrated," I said. "No, I can tell you're doing your best just by looking at your desk. Let's work hard together," Steve replied, looking at the piles of company documents and sales materials on my desk. "Seeing all this shows you're really thinking about your clients. I may not be one to say, but you're a good salesman, Ethan," he said with a kind smile, reigniting the spark of hope in me. I spent the day giving Steve the tour of the office and explaining the work. We had lunch together at a nearby diner. "If you don't mind me asking, why did you decide to change your job now?" I asked. "My previous company went bankrupt, and when I saw this company was hiring, I applied. I wondered a bit if they were even hiring for mid-career positions." "I see. Thank you for sharing. I'll do my best to help you get accustomed to the work quickly. It's kind of you, Ethan. I'm glad to have you as my trainer." Steve's words made me happy. Afterward, I taught Steve as much as I could about sales and even how to make phone calls. Balancing my own sales responsibilities with training him wasn't easy. Still, I didn't want Steve to feel uncomfortable, so I spent as much time as possible with him, providing support. A week later, George called Steve and me. "You know what? I've got a great idea." A vague feeling washed over me as he continued. "Ethan and Steve, if you don't raise 100K in sales by this time next year, you're both fired. How about that for a challenge?" I got speechless at this absurd demand. "What? That's unreasonable," I managed to say. George, relentless, added, "After all, Ethan, your performance hasn't improved, right? You must be feeling your limits." And as for Steve, at his age and starting anew, He must be useless. I'm telling you, I'll give you 1 year. I'm generous, don't you think? Oh, he said loudly. I stood there, unable to respond, when Steve surprisingly said, "Understood. 100K, right?" "Steve, what are you saying? Raising 100K in sales is impossible," I said in a panic. "Ethan, we can do it if we work together," Steve said confidently. Hearing our conversation, George laughed loudly and left, saying, "Good luck, I'll be looking forward to it." Other employees then came up to us. "Are you guys okay? If there's anything we can help you guys with, just let us know." We couldn't say anything because we were afraid of George, but we're on your side. I felt tears welling up. "Ethan, it's too early to cry. Let's shed tears of joy this time next year," Steve said, gripping my hand firmly. Inspired by Steve's firm handshake, I felt a switch flip inside me, and from the next day, we both focused on developing new business. I hustled to set up appointments with companies I had identified and pitched relentlessly. While I struggled to secure orders, Steve, surprisingly, was closing contracts one after another. He said this was his first time in sales. How is he securing so many contracts? Curious, I joined Steve on several sales visits. There, I saw him quickly identifying issues and improvement areas, explaining the benefits of our proposals clearly and persuasively, even to initially hesitant clients. He effortlessly won over difficult clients, warming up the atmosphere by the end of the meetings. Amazed, I asked, "I thought you said this was your first time in sales. How do you so easily win over clients?" Let me think." Steve pondered, then replied with a smile, "Well, I just do what you do, think carefully about the client and listen attentively." I believed I had been considering the client's needs and my proposals. But if they said no, I would sometimes push hard, but I wasn't fully listening to the clients or understanding their issues almost all time. In my haste and lack of calm, I realized. Steve reassured me with a pat on the back. "I'm sure you definitely can achieve your goal, Ethan." Encouraged by Steve, I started to revise my approach, using his techniques and thinking objectively from the client's perspective. Miraculously, like a changed person, I began securing contracts rapidly, and my performance improved significantly. Steve and I became top performers within 6 months. A year after the challenge, Steve and I each achieved over 100K in sales. President John commended us in person. Meanwhile, George, who hadn't improved his performance or attitude, was scolded by President John. "I've heard the rumors, but it seems you were the most incompetent. And you, George, I tasked you with training Steve, but you left it all to Ethan. What were you doing?" he added. "You even said they'd be fired if they didn't meet the target to raise 100K in sales. With what authority could you say that? You're the one who's fired." Indeed, George was fired. Later, Steve revealed his true story. Steve originally worked in sales for 30 years before taking early retirement at 50. After retiring, he worked as a consultant in his own business. However, he was approached by President John, an acquaintance and the CEO, who asked for his help in turning around the branch. "It's okay even if it's just for a year. Could you join as a salesperson?" President John pleaded, and Steve agreed. He was also tasked with monitoring the actions of George, whose behavior had become problematic at headquarters. Steve later apologized, saying, "I lied about the company going bankrupt, about being hired mid-career, and about being new to sales. I feel terrible about it. I'm truly sorry." I reassured him, "Please don't worry about it. Thanks to you, my performance improved, and I rediscovered the joy and importance of sales. I'm truly grateful to you." After a year, Steve truly left the workplace and now serves as a consultant for both the headquarters and the branch. He frequently visits the offices, bringing delicious snacks and lending an ear to the employees' concerns, earning their trust and reliance. Since then, I've maintained top sales performance and was even offered a transfer to headquarters, but I chose to stay at the branch with the colleagues who helped me during tough times. Now, I'm in charge of training new employees. I strive to ensure they enjoy their work, never forgetting the basics. Steve and I have become drinking buddies, and though we are joked about being friends with a big age gap, he is my savior and my friend. I'll cherish this bond, committed to advancing in my work.